A question many people have is, won't I be accepted by God if I try to live a good life? You know, that's a great question. And it makes perfect sense. I mean, think about it. What we're suggesting is that I'm at least as good as somebody, or the next guy, or at least I'm better than many. And isn't that good enough for God? Well, it seems reasonable, and it sure is hopeful that I could compare pretty well with at least some people, keeping somebody behind me and me closer to God than others. It's a good question. It makes sense, but let me tell you a story. Picture this. You're building a house. You've specified everything that's going to go into this house, and you want good stuff. One day, the windows arrive. Guy's ready to delivered them, is ready to put them in. In the picture window, the one that you're really looking forward to, big picture window is going to go in the living room. Just as he's ready to tip it into place, you look at it, there's a hole in it. I mean, a hole right through the window. The window isn't shattered. Oh man, 99% and more of the window is there. But there's a hole in it, right through the window. And trust me, windows can have holes in them. Would you let him install that window in your living room, in your brand new house? I got a feeling you would say, no, 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 no. Take that one back. And the guy might say, hey, you're being awfully fussy here. 99% of this window is completely fine. It's intact. And you would say, I don't care. This is my house. I want a window that's all in one piece. I do not want one with a hole in it. That makes sense, doesn't it? It's your house. You get to decide what goes in it. So that's the other side of this question. Whose house are we talking about? And who gets to decide what or who goes into it? We're talking about the house of God, His eternal home, heaven. Will we be allowed into His house, His dwelling, if we're less than perfect? We'd like to say, well, of course. But that's our standard of judgment. It's not His. It's His house. And just as I'm sure you would not put a broken window into your house if you have any choice, God does. He does have a choice. And His choice was, you must be perfect. That's His choice. He says in the words of Jesus, you must be perfect. As your Father in heaven is perfect, so you must be. Or, in the words of Paul, anyone who is guilty of breaking one commandment has broken them all. In other words, if you can find one place in which there's a hole, the whole window is broken. Now, we understand that with windows. We have it here too. Now that changes the question, changes the equation, doesn't it? It's not up to our standard of judgment. It's not how well am I doing compared to somebody else. It's a question of God's standard. And if His standard is perfect, like a perfect window, no holes, what hope do we have? Well, good news. Here's our hope. It's beyond hope. It's certainty. God was in Christ reconciling the world unto Himself, not counting their trespasses against them. Hope, it's beyond that. The good news of God is that though we are riddled with holes, He has not counted them against us. Why? Because of His Son. Paul continues with the same idea when he says, He made Him who knew no sin to become sin for us, that we might become the righteousness of God in Him. In other words, He took His perfect Son, overlaid onto Him every hole, every crack, every failure that we had. He put them onto Him, so that then He could turn to us and say, perfect. Are we? Well, no, not left to ourselves, not by any standard of our own judgment, not in comparison to anybody else. We're not perfect, but He said we were. He called us perfect. In Ephesians, he says that He, like a groom, sees us like a bride, whom He presents to Himself without stain or wrinkle or spot or blemish or any such thing, but holy and blameless in His sight. That's His judgment. It's not our perfection. It's not our doing. It's His judgment because of what He did in His Son. So, will I be accepted by God? Yes. Not because I've tried hard or I'm a little better than someone else, but because of the perfection that He's done in His Son, because of his putting onto his Son my cracks, my failures, my holes, and seeing me as he sees his perfect Son. Perfect. Now that's our hope.